At a small-town auction, no one dared to bid on the massive, snarling dog in the corner, except one rugged mountain man. Laughed at for his choice, he took the beast home. What happened in the wilderness afterward was so unbelievable, it silenced the entire town in awe. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. High in the shadow of snow-capped peaks lived a man most folks only whispered about. His name was Elias, though around the valley he was simply called the Mountain Man. With a weathered face and a beard streaked with gray, he carried the look of someone who had wrestled storms and won. Elias lived alone in a wooden cabin he had built with his own hands. His days were filled with chopping firewood, hunting game, and tending to the land that seemed as untamed as he was. But when night fell, silence filled the cabin. No laughter, no family, just a man and his memories, echoes of a life once shared, now long gone. On a crisp autumn morning, Elias rode into town, the sound of wagon wheels crunching over gravel echoing against the storefronts. It wasn't often he left the mountains, but the animal auction had always been a place of curiosity. Farmers shouted, bids for cattle, ranchers haggled over horses, and children clutched their parents' hands, wide-eyed at the spectacle. Then came the dogs. Most were lean herders or eager pups wagging tails for attention. But when the last cage was dragged onto the stage, the mood shifted. Inside stood a giant of a dog, his thick coat bristling, golden eyes burning with distrust. A low growl silenced the crowd. Whispers spread, too wild, too dangerous, best left alone. No hand lifted to bid. Then, against all odds, Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. "I'll take him." Gasps rippled through the crowd. When the auctioneer's gavel slammed down, the giant dog was led forward, chains rattling as though they barely held his strength. The crowd pressed back, giving the animal a wide berth. Elias, however, didn't flinch. He crouched low, his weathered eyes meeting the beast's fierce stare. The dog bared his teeth, lips curling into a snarl that made nearby children gasp. But Elias saw something beneath the fury, a flicker of fear, a shadow of betrayal. "Easy, boy," he murmured, his voice rough but calm, the way one might speak to a storm before it breaks. For a tense moment, silence held. Then the dog blinked, his growl softening to a wary rumble. The crowd whispered in disbelief. Elias straightened slowly, a faint smile tugging at his beard. "Not a monster," he said under his breath. "Just misunderstood." The wagon creaked under the weight of the massive dog as Elias guided his horses toward the mountain road. Behind him, townsfolk shook their heads, whispering warnings that carried on the wind. That beast will tear him apart. Fools bound to regret it. But Elias didn't glance back once. The dog sat chained, muscles tense, golden eyes scanning every tree and shadow. Now and then he growled, but Elias only spoke softly, letting the steady rhythm of his voice fill the silence. "You'll see, boy. These mountains have a way of mending what the world breaks." As the cabin came into view, smoke rising gently from its stone chimney, Elias felt something stir in his chest. He wasn't just bringing home a dog. He was taking in a companion the world had abandoned, just like it once had abandoned him. The first nights were filled with tension. The giant dog refused to eat, his food bowl left untouched by the cabin wall. He paced in circles, chains rattling, growling at every creak of the wood or flicker of firelight. Elias never forced him. Instead, he sat nearby, speaking in a calm, steady tone, letting the dog know he wasn't an enemy. "Patience, old boy," Elias would whisper, whittling wood with his knife as the fire crackled. "Trust doesn't come in a day." Days turned into weeks. Each sunrise, Elias laid fresh scraps of venison at the dog's feet. Each night, he offered water, never pushing closer than the animal would allow. Slowly, signs of change emerged. The growls softened into wary silence. The dog's eyes lingered on Elias longer, studying him. Then one evening, Elias held out his hand with a strip of meat. The dog hesitated, muscles coiled. At last, he leaned forward, teeth brushing Elias's fingers as he took the food. It was small, just a bite. But Elias knew in his heart it was the first crack in the wall between them. Trust had begun to take root. By spring, The cabin no longer echoed with growls. The dog, now called Titan, had begun to follow Elias. At a distance, his heavy paws crunching softly behind him on hunting trips. At first, Titan kept space between them, but gradually he closed the gap, walking side by side with the man who refused to give up on him. One night, a howl shattered the quiet. Wolves prowled near the cabin, their eyes glinting from the tree-line. Elias reached for his rifle, but before he could lift it, Titan was already there, fur bristling, teeth flashing, his thunderous bark echoing through the mountains. The wolves slunk back into the dark, unwilling to challenge the giant. From that night onward, Titan no longer lingered in the shadows. He lay at the cabin door, his body a wall of protection. When Elias chopped wood, Titan watched. When Elias trekked for supplies, Titan carried small packs on his broad back. The turning point came on a hunting trip, when a charging boar burst from the underbrush. Elias stumbled, but Titan lunged, slamming the beast aside. Chest heaving, Elias realized this dog wasn't just company. Titan was willing to give everything for him. The storm rolled in without warning. Rain hammered the mountainside, loosening rocks and turning narrow paths into rivers of mud. Elias had gone out to check his traps when the ground suddenly gave way beneath him. He tumbled down a slope, pain tearing through his leg as a boulder pinned him against the earth. His rifle lay shattered yards away. Every attempt to move sent fire shooting up his side. Alone, in the cold rain, Elias knew the truth. If he couldn't free himself, the mountain would claim him. Then a shadow loomed above. Titan. The giant dog scrambled down the slick rocks, claws digging into the mud. He barked furiously, circling Elias, then bit down hard on the edge of the boulder. Muscles straining, he tugged, growling with effort. The rock shifted, once, twice, and then rolled free. Elias gasped in disbelief, clutching Titan's thick fur as the dog braced against the storm. With strength born of loyalty, Titan pulled his master up the slope, dragging him inch by inch until they collapsed near the cabin's porch. Drenched and trembling, Elias whispered, "You saved my life." Titan simply lay beside him, eyes steady, as if to say, it was never a question. In the days that followed, Elias moved slower, leaning on a carved cane while his leg healed. But he was never truly alone. Titan shadowed him, steady and watchful, a guardian at every step. The once silent cabin now pulsed with life, the sound of heavy paws and steady breathing filling the emptiness. Neighbors who once mocked Elias for adopting the wild beast now saw something different. When he rode into town, Titan walked proudly beside him, and folks stepped aside in awe. Whispers had turned into respect. Elias, the man who had lived years in solitude, now found laughter spilling from his lips when Titan bounded through the snow. He no longer looked like a man haunted by loneliness. He looked like a man who had finally found family again. Elias often thought back to that autumn auction, the moment he lifted his hand for a dog no one else wanted. What the world saw as a dangerous beast had become his savior, his protector, and his truest friend. Titan hadn't just filled the silence of the mountains. He had mended a broken man's heart. Sometimes, the ones cast aside by others are the very ones who carry the greatest strength. Elias knew this now better than anyone. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unbelievable tales of loyalty and courage.